I'm Dilek Tuna. You're watching A News. Let's see the headlines. Venezuela earthquake death toll nears 1,000 as foreign rescuers arrive. Israel and Lebanon sign a framework agreement after US mediated talks. And US strikes Iran after attack on cargo ship. Venezuela is facing a major disaster after twin earthquakes struck near the capital, killing nearly 1,000 people and leaving hundreds trapped beneath collapsed buildings.
The death toll from Venezuela's twin earthquakes rose to nearly 1,000, with thousands injured and hundreds still trapped beneath collapsed buildings. Emergency teams have been working around the clock in Caracas, La Guaira, and surrounding areas, clearing rubble and searching for survivors. Hundreds of buildings were damaged, including hospitals, forcing mass evacuations. International assistance is arriving to support rescue and relief operations. A UK military flight carried 68 personnel, including 6 search and rescue dogs, to Venezuela to help locate survivors. Turkey also dispatched a military transport aircraft from Istanbul, carrying rescue teams, search and rescue dogs, and humanitarian supplies to support emergency operations. The United Nations is scaling up aid. Secretary General Antonio Guterres spoke with Venezuela's acting president Delcy Rodriguez and pledged full cooperation from the UN system.
The Secretary General last night spoke to the acting president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez. In the call, he expressed his solidarity with the people and government of Venezuela following the devastating earthquakes. The Secretary General pledged the full cooperation of the UN system in support of the government's led relief efforts. On the ground, we and our humanitarian partners are rapidly scaling up our response, conducting assessments and mobilizing assistance. The emergency relief coordinator, Tom Fletcher, allocated yesterday $15 million from the Central Emergency Response Fund. All of this to support urgent life-saving assistance, including healthcare, shelter, food, and water.
Authorities estimate that over 50,000 people remain unaccounted for. The disaster comes as Venezuela continues to face a severe political and economic crisis, compounding the challenges of the relief effort.
US President Donald Trump has warned that any country imposing a digital services tax on American companies will face a 100% tariff on all goods sent to the United States. Trump said the tariff would override any existing or future trade deals with the affected country. The announcement comes as the US trade deficit in goods hit a 14-month high in May, amid high imports and concerns over global supply disruptions linked to the war in the Middle East. Trump has defended tariffs as necessary to protect domestic manufacturing and reduce the trade deficit. Washington has hosted the signing of a framework agreement between Israel and Lebanon, with the US taking a central role in its implementation.
Israel and Lebanon have signed a US-mediated framework agreement in Washington, but Israel says its forces will remain in southern Lebanon until Hezbollah disarms. The document was signed at the US State Department by Lebanon's ambassador to Washington, Nada Mawad, and her Israeli counterpart, Yechiel Leiter. The US says it will help facilitate implementation through a military coordination group. Washington also pledged $100 million in humanitarian assistance and more than $30 million to support the Lebanese armed forces.
The trilateral framework we signed today is a first step on the road to restoring Lebanese sovereignty and territorial integrity, securing a permanent and final cessation of hostilities, enabling our people to go back to their land, and allowing all Lebanese to live in peace, security, and prosperity.
Under the framework, the Lebanese army is expected to expand its control over territory in southern Lebanon gradually. The deal includes 2 pilot zones, where Israeli forces would pull back from some areas and the Lebanese army would begin taking responsibility. Further withdrawals would depend on security conditions on the ground. For Israel, the agreement is tied directly to Hezbollah's disarmament. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israeli forces will stay in what Israel calls a security zone in southern Lebanon as long as Hezbollah remains armed.
Israel remains in the security zone in southern Lebanon. This is a great achievement, and we are maintaining it as long as Hezbollah does not disarm, as long as there is a danger to the state of Israel. This is also a great blow to Iran. Iran is trying to force us to withdraw from southern Lebanon by force. And in essence, Israel, Lebanon, and the United States are telling them, this is none of your business. You have no role in Lebanon.
The fighting in Lebanon began after Hezbollah opened fire on Israel in March, following US and Israeli strikes on Iran. The framework is linked to wider US-brokered efforts to end fighting on several fronts, including Lebanon.
The United States has carried out its first strike since agreeing a ceasefire with Iran after blaming Tehran for a drone attack on a commercial ship in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has responded by saying it targeted US military positions in the region.
The United States carried out airstrikes on Iranian military targets on Friday after accusing Tehran of launching a drone attack on a commercial cargo ship in the Strait of Hormuz a day earlier. US Central Command said American aircraft struck missile and drone storage facilities, along with coastal radar sites. It said the operation was a response to what it described as an Iranian violation of the ceasefire and a threat to freedom of navigation through the strategic waterway. US President Donald Trump said Iran had launched 4 drones at the vessel. US forces intercepted 3 of them, while one struck the ship and caused damage. Trump also said Iran still retained some military capability.
Iran, if we didn't do that, and we still have a fight, they have some capability, not much. They're not winning or anything, but they have some capability. They can still shoot. They shot a drone yesterday at a big ship going into the Hormuz Strait. They shot 4 of them. We knocked down 3 of them. One of them, I guess, we didn't miss it. Nobody saw it coming. And it hit a ship and did some damage. But they can't do that stuff. But very soon they will.
Iran rejected the US accusations, saying the cargo ship had used an unauthorized route through the Strait of Hormuz and accusing Washington of violating the memorandum that ended weeks of fighting. Early on Saturday, Iran's Revolutionary Guard said they had retaliated by targeting US military positions in the region, although they did not identify the locations.
And joining me now is Pedro Trovão do Rosário. He's a political analyst joining us from Lisbon, Portugal. Pedro, welcome to the programme.
Thank you. Good morning, Tuna.
Now, let's begin with the reported framework agreement between Israel and Lebanon. Disarming Hezbollah has long been discussed, but never fully achieved. What makes this framework different from previous initiatives, and do you think it will stick?
Well, mainly we must understand this is a political document, not a legal one. It's not something that it will be easily monitored by someone if this agreement is being or not respected. And also there are not any kind of sanctions for eventual non-compliance with this agreement. This is the first problem in the document itself. Although we understand that it is very, very important, it is a sign of respect to Lebanon when Israel, with the mediation of the United States, settles an agreement. It has some terms that are really interesting because they mention the United States president for 4 times, if I'm not mistaken, as an important element on the achievement of this settlement, of this memorandum of agreement. But it never speaks about the leaving of the Israeli troops from Lebanon state. We must understand that this is, although this particular or specific element that I mentioned a few seconds ago, but it is important to understand that we must recognize the importance of the Lebanon sovereignty. Although it's also important that we don't forget that Hezbollah itself, it is the European Union considers like that, as many countries, as a terrorist group, but it is also in Lebanon a political party.
Okay.
This is a political party that has many followers, electors. It has from 128 deputies. It has since the first election that occurred with the Hezbollah between 12 and 15 members on the national parliament of Lebanon. So it would be important to understand that this memorandum itself, it should have a bigger representation from the Lebanon party.
Okay.
We understand
Pedro,
that
I'd like
members from Hezbollah.
Pedro, I'd like to stay on this topic, but just I'm mindful of the time, so I just want to move on to another component. The United States has carried out strikes against Iran following developments in the Strait of Hormuz. How serious is this latest escalation?
Well, it's more or less a problem that we understand from the question that we were talking about. We can't understand how these kind of agreements, even if they are just memorandums for another purpose, for a bigger and a more important agreement, but they should be conceived, they should be somehow in a frame of an international institution, United Nations, the European Union itself, for instance, that have not this kind of arrangements, as you understand, you can easily understand, by a Pakistan mediator or the United States as a mediator in another conflict. We must understand the importance of the international institutions. So it's the same thing that I was still talking about Lebanon and Israel. We don't have an international institution that is seeing if the memorandum between United States and Iran is being complied, if it is being respected. There are no kind of sanctions to enforce this kind of agreement because it's just a memorandum. Even if we understand that Pakistan now it says that it may send its army, its navy for the Strait of Hormuz. We must understand that it's not Pakistan, it's not a country, it's not a region, it's an international problem. We have international institutions, we have institutions that should be, in this moment, acting on the field so that we may ensure all the population, the several countries that are involved in conflicts, and even for international trade, that it would be so much important to have another kind of a solution that not it was just this one with the mediator from one country or as one country or another one, etc., etc.
Okay, Pedro, thank you so much for joining us on the program today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And Burkina Faso announced on Friday that it is severing diplomatic relations with France with immediate effect, citing concerns over sovereignty, security and alleged foreign interference.
The government of Burkina Faso hereby informs both national and international public opinion that it has decided to sever its diplomatic relations with the French Republic effective as of today, June 26, 2026. This decision follows a thorough assessment of the current state of bilateral relations between Burkina Faso and France. Indeed, the essential conditions for promoting relations based on mutual respect, reciprocal trust, respect for the principle of non-interference in internal affairs, and respect for national sovereignty are not in place.
Russia and Ukraine conducted a prisoner exchange on Friday with 160 service members from each side released. The Russian Defense Ministry confirmed that the returned Russian soldiers were receiving medical and psychological care in Belarus before being transferred to Russia for further treatment. The United Arab Emirates acted as a mediator to facilitate the swap. This marks the 76th prisoner swap between the two countries since the conflict began in 2022. Meanwhile, Ukraine says it has struck a Russian military plant in the Volgograd region as Moscow launched fresh attacks on Ukraine's energy facilities overnight. President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukrainian-made Flamingo missiles hit the Titan Barikadi plant, which produces artillery systems and components for missile launch systems. According to officials, 10 people were injured in the attack and were receiving medical attention. Russia, meanwhile, fired ballistic missiles and drones at Naftogaz production facilities in the Poltava and Kharkiv regions. NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte says tens of billions of dollars in new defence-related contracts are expected to be announced at the alliance's upcoming summit in Ankara in July. Speaking at the Atlantic Council, Rutte said the deals would mark a significant boost to NATO defence cooperation.
Spurred by President Trump's leadership, we see household names like Lockheed, RTX, Northrop Grumman, Boeing and General Dynamics massively ramping up their production to meet this moment. We also see newer firms like Anduril, Palantir and Divergent Technologies innovating on tech and production methods at pace and with purpose. That is revolution. Bottom line, the prospects are plentiful. And in Ankara we will provide the platform to showcase how we are seizing the opportunities and making this revolution a reality. We will announce tens of billions of dollars of new contracts. And when our industries from Arlington to Ankara combine their strengths and step up supply, the result is not only improved security. We are in the early stages of a defense industrial revolution that will help grow our economies and support hundreds of thousands of jobs on both sides of the Atlantic.
Russia has announced a ban on fish imports from Armenia. It's an extension of previous restrictions that affected most Armenian exports to the Russian market. Russia's news agency TASS reported on Friday that the latest measure now includes the remaining 2 Armenian fish producers left out of the previous ban. It also coincides with Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan's re-election earlier this month. He has signalled a move away from relying on Russia and more towards the European Union. In the past, Moscow has imposed similar restrictions on products from Georgia, Poland and Turkey amid strained relations. Azerbaijan Airlines has taken delivery of its first Airbus A321neo, marking another step in the carrier's long-term fleet modernisation program. The aircraft is expected to improve fuel efficiency, increase capacity on busy routes and enhance the passenger experience.
Azerbaijan Airlines has introduced its first next-generation Airbus A321neo into service following its delivery from Airbus in Hamburg. The aircraft becomes the newest addition to Azal's growing Airbus fleet, which now includes the A319ceo, A320ceo, A320neo. The delivery forms part of an agreement reached in 2024 for 6 new Airbus aircraft, including 3 A321neos and 3 A320neos. 2 A320neos have already joined the fleet, with the remaining aircraft due to arrive by November 2026. The A321neo is expected to increase capacity on high-demand routes while improving operational efficiency. Compared with previous generation aircraft, it consumes around 20% less fuel and produces lower carbon emissions per seat, while offering a range of up to 7,400 kilometers. Passengers will also benefit from Airbus's latest airspace cabin, featuring larger overhead storage, redesigned interiors, full LED lighting, next-generation in-flight entertainment and high-speed Wi-Fi. The latest delivery supports Azal's long-term strategy to expand its fleet to 50 aircraft by 2032, strengthening the airline's regional network while improving efficiency and passenger comfort.
Uzbekistan's eastern city of Andijan has officially been named the cultural capital of the Turkic world for 2026. The announcement was marked by a colourful celebration that also earned the country a new Guinness World Record. Our correspondent Sevir Rajapova brings more.
Andijan has officially launched its year as the cultural capital of the Turkic world, a title awarded by the International Organization of Turkic Culture, Turksoy. The designation recognizes the city's centuries-old contribution to Turkic history, literature and the arts. Andijan is widely known as the birthplace of Muhammad Babur, founder of the Mughal Empire, and for its rich traditions in music, dance and craftsmanship. One of the highlights of the celebrations was a record-breaking performance of the traditional Andijan polka. A total of 20,000 performers gathered at the Babur Arena to dance simultaneously, setting a new Guinness World Record. An official Guinness World Records adjudicator attended the event and confirmed that all requirements had been met before the record was certified. Throughout 2026, Andijan is expected to host festivals, exhibitions, scientific conferences and cultural exchanges, all aimed at strengthening cooperation among Turkic nations and showcasing the region's cultural legacy to international audiences. It is Sevir Rajapova reporting from Tashkent, Uzbekistan News.
A powerful heat wave is gripping much of Europe, sending temperatures soaring across several countries and putting growing pressure on public services. From disrupted daily routines to cancelled events and health warnings, millions are feeling the impact of the extreme conditions.
Across Europe, people are changing the way they work, travel, and spend their days as an intense heat wave pushes temperatures to dangerous levels. In Britain, the mercury climbed to 36.9 degrees Celsius, setting another provisional June record, while parts of France topped 40 degrees, forcing authorities to cancel major events and introduce emergency public health measures. For 27-year-old Oliver Horrocks, working from home has become a daily struggle. With no air conditioning, he relies on fans, cold showers, and ice water to stay cool, saying the heat has disrupted his sleep, reduced his productivity, and made even routine work calls more difficult.
I don't think Britain's ever been set up for heat. I think it's quite apparent when you go to a different country how much more adapted they are for like the infrastructure, etc.
The heat is also disrupting public life elsewhere. In France, authorities canceled the Solidays Music Festival over public health concerns, saying hospitals were already under pressure as temperatures continued to climb.
It is true that organising a festival that can bring together 260,000 people in 3 days, well, there you go. One must also know how to be reasonable. Despite all the frustration that it can generate, it is an event when you are a volunteer, when you wait for weeks, even months, when you work from time to time beforehand to make sure that this whole big machine can run.
The extreme conditions have prompted emergency measures beyond cancelled events. In Paris, officials temporarily banned public drinking and restricted alcohol sales, saying the measures were intended to ease pressure on overstretched hospitals. According to the World Meteorological Organization, the heat wave is expected to spread across much of Western, Central, and Southern Europe before shifting further east towards Central Europe and the Balkans by the end of the month. Experts also warn that persistently high nighttime temperatures can be just as dangerous as the heat during the day.
Typhoon Makala and tropical storm Higo slashed parts of Japan with heavy rain on Saturday, triggering landslides, injuries and evacuation orders. 3 people were injured and 1 person went missing after a mudslide struck a 2-story home in Hirao Town, Yamaguchi Prefecture, sending mud and debris into the first floor. Rainfall in neighbouring Yanai city has exceeded 350 millimetres, according to the local meteorological observatory. Authorities issued evacuation orders for thousands of residents in several areas amid the continuing risk of landslides. And that's the news for this hour. Stay tuned to A News for all the latest updates.